Oh, okay.
I was trying to do myself like I know, but like I don't trust them. And then my whole people out. It's like squirming and yeah, but when we this one like right there. This one's is like it's like a super big one.
Yeah. They're like, oh, 17
Last name. She gave me a weird look. No, my last name is too original.
Yeah. Are you there?
Oh, no.
So I always go over there.
Yeah, I did. He's so hard. really good in case it's not or tasteless. Not because they're drunk. Yeah, just constant.
Hell yeah. What are you working with that?
We're supposed to sit over here somewhere. The hell with it. Huh? What's that? Yeah, we're supposed to sit over here or... Yeah, that way we can... I don't want to sit the other way.
Yeah.
You gonna come and sit here or do you want
I'll
to
sit
sit
with
over
you,
there?
Wally.
Okay. You want to sit across or? No, that's fine.
I don't move down. You want to sit over?
And have my old friend with me. Oh, God.
These two are
I
really thick
thought
as
it'd be
thieves.
so awesome. And things we did not.
Well, hopefully the music cuts out here. It does. That's pretty good. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and in a remembrance for Al.
So does he.
Not real. I'm sure all of you know that Al wasn't the most formal of gentlemen ever, and in spite of his complicated nature, espoused simplicity in a lot of things. I wrote a few words for Al, but most especially wanted to say thank you very much for coming out and remembering. And if anybody after I speak wants to say anything or just gather, tell stories, remember everything about him, that would be wonderful. As I said, I wrote a few words, but some of it will be a little ad hoc, some of it will be written. But Allen John Leander was my stepfather and my pop, and he was, at his core, a man of science. He was a man who espoused the incalculable value of mathematics, analysis, statistics, and most fundamentally numbers. Numbers meant truth. His education was in science. He was a chemist and a chemical engineer by profession. He took great pride in the hard work that he had put in for many years in earning the title of professional engineer. He was a chemical and environmental engineer for all of his career, and always wanted to give accurate answers to the best of his ability to any questions he was asked, most especially when somebody asked a question and they didn't really even want an answer, just wanted to say something. My pop was a big man. Everybody knows he was a big man. And he had a big voice, and boy did he like to use it when we were arguing. And when he was debating, for good, bad, or indifferent, he was not afraid to use that voice and was not afraid to argue his opinions, but he also listened. He was a fiercely intelligent man. He was much brighter than I am, and I always was moderately envious of that. But it was wonderful to speak to him in any sort of discourse, in any argument, in any, even if at the time you didn't like it, but it was wonderful to debate with him. He thrived on the challenge of debate and discourse, and was a man of conviction and firm belief. Most of all, my pop was a man with a big heart. It was the biggest part of him. And as much as he tried to hide it, he was a man of a big heart and big emotions and big sensitivity, as much as he didn't like anybody to see it. He was a sensitive man who loved staunchly and unfailingly everybody. in his life. He was never one to come out and say it, but he couldn't hide it from any of us either because we could all see it. Al was a teacher as well as a lifelong student. He always said to me, if I could do one thing again in my life, I'd go back to school, just because I could. I want to take courses, and I want to have fun with it. I want to go back to school. Never did, but it didn't stop him from being a student, and it never stopped him from teaching. He had an unquenchable thirst to learn everything he could, even when sometimes he would say, I know that. But always wanted to learn more. And as much as he was dedicated to hard facts of science and numbers, he was also fascinated with imagining and picturing and bringing about the fantastical as well. He was an avid reader of science fiction and fantasy, and felt the wonder of not knowing what's really out there in the universe and the stories that could be told, either past, present, or future. Al was a lifelong shooter, collector, firearms enthusiast, although enthusiast doesn't come to close to describing it. He was a historian, was fascinated by military history, historical, anything of historical value. He was a lifetime member of the Canadian Historical Arms Society and served over the years in every position of the executive, but longest as treasurer. I remember going to meetings at the old timers cabin, setting up a table and putting out cartridges, and somebody would come up and say, what is that, what is that, what is that? And he would describe something oddball. There was never anything not oddball on the table. It was always something strange, and always something to be learned about or taught. Al was instrumental with the Canadian Historical Arms Society in buying the land which Genesee Range is on now. He hand drew the plans for Genesee Range, and then we built it. We oversaw construction of everything at the range, and then we built it. We poured the concrete, we built all the shelters and the shooting benches. And we had some of the best times of our lives out at that range. Al's true passion in shooting, especially in later years, was precision rifle. The entire process fascinated him, from either building the rifle himself or designing it and having it built, to breaking it in out at the range, where we were working up all sorts of different loads, and then going out and testing, just like everything else in his life, testing to see what was the best. Running up different loads. We even set up a loading bench out at the range and out in the field. You'll see a picture there of Al by the truck, sitting at a field bench, out working up loads in the middle of nowhere out in the prairie. And we would test him out there, and he would get behind the rifle, and everything would go still, and all of a sudden it would go off. We'd try for the smallest group you could ever get, and just pray that there was no flyers or wind. The wind was always there. Sorry. My pop was a good man. And deep down, he was amongst the best of men. And on the surface, he was amongst the best of men. I would not be the man that I am today without him. And at my core, I loved him dearly. And I will miss him. I will miss him to the end of days. Thank you. Sorry. If anybody else would like to say anything, please be welcome. If you'd like to say a few words, I'm sure he would like that. If you want to remember in your head, in your own mind, anything, please be welcome. If we want to just sit around and chat, remember, and as I said, Al was not a formal man. He never stood on ceremony. He was the most complicated yet simple man I ever knew. And he would absolutely love remembering good times. Thank you. A minute. Thank you.
You introduced us.
Can I tell the story?
What's that?
Can I tell the story?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell you about a time that happened 40 years ago. Wally and I were best friends. And Al and Gary, my husband, were best friends. And every Friday night, Al and Gary would go and play war games at the university. And Wally and I would go eat out. And then we'd hear about what they did after playing war games with two other guys who were also quite good size. They ended up closing out a all-you-can-eat rib place every Friday night. Gary died 39 years ago. And Wally and Al were with us every step of the way. They never left us. Al would sit in the bedroom and talk to Gary, and they talked like they never had before. He was there so much for Gary, and Wally was there so much for me. And I have wonderful memories of what happened at a very difficult time, because one day, Al said to me, "Your friend Wally, is she involved with anybody?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Do you think she might ask? She might go out with me if I ask?" And I said, "Ask." And then ran into the bedroom to tell Gary that Al had just decided to ask Wally out. And before he died, he knew that Al and Wally were going out. And he said to me, "You know, something good is coming out of this." And through all those years, and we lost contact many times because we're silly, we never argued, nothing, but we just kind of went our own ways. When I see Wally now, it's as if there's no time passed. I love her, and I loved Al, and I loved how much they were there. And just knowing Al was in the world and that Wally was with him always made me so happy. And so I will miss Al. Every time I did run into him, I would always get a big hug. And if Wally wasn't there, the first thing he'd do is tell me how Wally was doing. And the fact that they had as many years together makes me feel so good. And I think made Gary feel so good too. And I'll miss Al, and he was something really special. And I love to see how much his son loved him. I know how much Wally loved him. Thank you.
Beautiful. Oh. Oh.
All these years I do. let his hair grow long.
For a while, I kept telling him to put it in a ponytail. And, no, he didn't like that. He,
Wanted it free.
yeah, I mean, it was getting really short up here. And, but he, towards the end, now it was short again. So that was, well, Emilia was obviously a baby. And,
He must have loved Terry's granddaughter.
oh. There's nothing wrong. That's fine.
It's scary up there.
The two that did. And I said to Jared, you know, lesson, whatever. I said, you know, he wouldn't even want to. But this is for us, this isn't for him. I mean, it is for him, through us. And something needs to be done, you know. And if it's just 40, 30, 40 people.
I looked at the guest book and somebody who had worked with him in the 70s wrote it, and so you might want to look at that later.
Like I said, if anybody else wants to come up and talk any time while we're there. In the meantime, there's coffee and a few sweets at the back. Please help yourself. Good conversation, good remembrances. Please help yourself to coffee. There's juice and some sweets as well. And as we all know, Al wasn't a man of shy of sweets, so please help yourself and honor. On that note, I'll start the ball rolling and I'm grabbing the coffee.
I recognize the name, the last name.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, I asked.
Me and Alan mowed. Oh, yeah.
I was thinking of lunch. I remember when I was in university that we were all going to Boston pizza, and Al was insisting that we should use the cornflour cheese on the table because that was stealing it. And it's like, well, no, they put it there. And it was adamant, it was just adamant.
Oh my God, yeah.
I've been actually teaching ethical Gary dictated one to me when he was gone. And in it, one of the things he said to Angie was because they had some talks that we were going to
Go to the meeting, I'd go to the meeting,
and what Gary had said to Al was,
and because I thought to learn something from her, right? Everything that
and
you
that was
said
just at the time
really
you,
resonates with me.
and it just, there was something so right about it.
I'm a lifetime jazz member. I'm one of the
Yeah.
like Alan. Well,
Yeah, the two of them.
that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. I was speaking with Steve the other day, and I have no idea. They named the pistol range out in Genesee.
And that was my fault.
Probably, yeah. See, I don't even get out to shoot. I haven't been out for so long.
Do you know what? I haven't. The last time I would have gone shooting would have been with Al. And that was 25 years ago.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you guys from going. Oh, there's a lot of stuff to sort out now, and so, like I was telling,
Yeah.
No. Yep, it's like, right, don't take, no, there's no offer.
I think
Okay? Don't let
the time I was
anybody bugger you, like, pester you, and settling up, because you'll take a bath. Oh, that way, okay? No.
No, but Al would have stuff that's like,
There's guys out there that want to offer pennies on the dollar.
yeah.
But the thing is that depending on what, the thing is when you're a artist, yeah, you gotta
I never
yeah.
did really figure it out.
Okay, so it always struck me when Blair Holt passed away. You know Blair? Yeah. Okay. 40 years. Okay, well, Blair, sure, random decider.
What's,
I'm not sure if I said one, there might be one at the fellow sitting on the chair there. When Blair Holt passed away, that was shocking me. And again, both times, this time and the last time, I found out through the old bits, and thank you very much. Oh.
But it's good.
It's a good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Love to bring you something. All right, how do you like it?
The guys, Chaz,
No, actually, I haven't either. I think I was, you were the one who got me onto Black.
Yeah,
I
so I
we only put it in one day, because they're, like an obit in the journal is, people think so we, they're not gonna be around much longer. My mom told me they're gonna go all online. Yes. Yeah, I haven't done a paper
I'm not doing this.
Oh, I know.
To tell
Yeah,
them.
that-
So earlier in the
my
weekend,
nephews-
you know, we could get some
Never.
George said,
Anyway, my point being is
The
that,
numbers are better than ours.
these rare people, like Blair, as they get into these politically incorrect things, and to me, that's a compliment, that's not a aggressive thing. You start to realize the value in what they are pursuing, right? If your father being was he your biological? No. He was the what he was interested in, chasing the numbers. That's all. And he is absolutely correct. There is no debate using numbers, right? There isn't your perspective versus my perspective, which dominates so much of what the landscape right now. So it's very comforting to have that kind of work with that. And it was nice to see somebody like that that was not only on the intellectual level, but on a craftsman end as well, right? And I'm not sure I could speak for Chad, but I would like to say better up there in the minutes, how important he was to Chad. And again, just like Blair, I think your father was more,
Maybe I'll have.
Blair was.
Alright.
Oh, yeah, right.
Looks.
I shall return.
Thanks.
Unless you'd like to see
Sure, nice to see you guys are still what you were.
Oh, no, we are much better.
Oh, good.
And older.
I know, yeah, I know.
3 different stores. It's all tied in with the same.
Oh,
Blair's business as well.
yeah, with a touch of it.
I'm surprised to hear what Al told me, but he and Al was way, and I think there was cancer that it was, as I recall, pancreatic cancer is, yes, because it's, well, my next door neighbor.
Same kind of thing as when I got a big hug and he
And by the
said,
time they found
don't
out,
tell
she was
Wally I'm
already.
telling you, but I
organ cancer is, my mother-in-law was lung, and my father-in-law was, thank God, just quick test.
Well, I had the checkup that nobody wants to do.
Oh, you get the prostate, it's.
No. You can equate the check with when Trudeau announces another tax hike, you get it up the butt. It's so funny because the same doctor that performed it, the only other time I ever had
Well,
it was in
well,
1995.
this is
Turns out she's the same doctor that
Where I
gives
kind
it
of.
to a lot of.
Hey, this looks pretty familiar. This looks familiar.
No, I didn't even get to lie down. She like walked into the room and said, hey, I remember you from 1995. I was gonna say the same for her. I'm gonna go get something checked.
I mean, I knew.
I've actually run into two other people that had same one like that. Not very many of them, not in the last 20 years.
Anyway, so what did they find? Pardon? Celia. I had a psychologist. And once they found it,
Feeling normal because they are. When I was.
It is what it is. It is. And oh, that's sweet.
Was it? Oh, okay. Okay. I thought it was Angie's sister.
No.
Chin.
No, Angie.
Oh, so grandparents, yeah, because my kids don't, my kids don't know my wife's mom,
Yeah.
because she died when they were babies. And my dad died before he
Never met.
Not last year.
Yeah.
75.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my brother.
I don't think I have.
You know, very something.
Oh, when they were still over there.
Finally, yeah, finally, I thought I had lost it.
See, my brother-in-law was Jim. But that's because Christina died later. It's her sister's like, one in the Yukon and one
And
in
I said, what?
Australia.
You know, I
One on
thought,
Australia.
this is a muscle puller that was tight. And then.
Yeah, so we don't talk to her right now.
Sorry.
Like they've never seen anything.
Because I've been at mom's place all last week and everything.
Yep. Because I've been thinking about high school people lately. I stopped by Sup. Still working at Sup on the weekends.
We went back there to work part-time.
part-time, so I went to, and he's been, I got him that job like 25 years ago. But I stopped by just
6 weeks later.
on the off chance that he would be there. So I stopped by and I was
Fix it
like,
up.
how you doing? Because his mom.
Yeah, just last March. It's actually,
So,
Yeah.
because like I said, I thought I saw him. So
Yeah.
and I saw the bit for sort of just texting my boss.
Permanently. It's just a phone.
They sat their own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I had your number was because you had it on that.
Yeah.
Because all of his contact, like, he had an old BlackBerry until the time that
Pull the plug.
pulled the plug on everything. And transferring his contacts over to his phone. So I'm like, yeah, the only reason to find your number.
Yeah, I would phone him about where how he was doing.
trying to balance with the, you know, the
But this is actually a visitation contract. This is a lot of it at the same time I did. And they put him on exemption. Did you try it?
He knew him before that.
That was 85.
Yeah, so I've got the before.
So we're in first in 89, so I've been in high school in 96. So 3 years before that, about 83, right? Yeah. I just think now, I have my son in university.
Well, that's what happens when all of a sudden you look and go, hey,
Yeah, well, when I turned 50 last year, it was
And that's
like,
how that
$10 years, done. That's like awesome. I don't get one. So, 56, done.
Christine's got a date, she'll be 57. 2024.
Nice.
Yeah. No, 2020. Yeah, no, 2025, sorry. Yeah. Yep. She's still in JC's or she's
No,
over to
she's
Swedes.
now she's in,
You have to keep playing with, especially as we get older.
non-res.
Also,
She's in non-res. She was.
That, at least that'll be a challenge for her. She's been there forever.
Well, she's been so many different areas. That almost nobody ever does.
I disagree with it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, this is like right on this is Jonathan John.
Yeah, you can do it. We know you can do it. Yeah.
And we have been best friends all these years without seeing each other.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that story more times from Al than
Here's my final
anybody else, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
he knows the story well about how we met.
Yeah.
No doubt. Al did like to.
It was such a lovely story.
Well, and also the thing with Al, would tell me the same story 10 times over.
Oh, yeah.
I always listen to it because, oh, no, I would go away.
I mean, isn't that normal?
Yeah, exactly, right? I need to know it, it's right into my head.
I'm sure my son would say the same thing.
every other day I'm getting like this last
He
night.
turned, in April, he's gonna be 51.
I'm gonna pretend I have a big expectation.
Yeah, they were very close to me, yeah.
We haven't seen each other
Yeah, within a few months.
before your kid.
Yeah,
Maybe do one of the.
he's working today. He works, actually, he's delighted. He works for Stantec and he's been working for months since COVID. And he's so happy.
After high school.
And there is also, he may not, she's not part government. And
so that was, yeah.
But the two of them are doing really happy that they do it forever. It's good.
Yeah, like permit on any.
I actually wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the other one closer to campus.
They bought a house together.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there was the one on White though.
So I finished May in '94, so it was after that. Yeah, so we didn't run, but I know we talked a couple of times after that too. We were just looking over.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
I like the cigar, so funny.
Yeah.
I think he's getting remarried.
But they were,
Because the first one was the one he has his daughter. Yeah. But when I moved into the house, he came and then he did him again when our nanny flaked out and robbed us. Because she had a house key.
Absolutely.
is Linda still? Yeah. Oh, okay. I wanted to come and talk to her. Okay,
I believe so. Might need to get a little closer to it.
Yep.
Folks, on behalf of the Canadian Historical Arms Society, I'd just like to say a few words about Mr. Leander. Everything his son has said manifested itself when Al was at the range. And I always appreciated Al being at our regular meetings once a month. He'd have not always, but he would have something to say, interesting, specifically about cartridges. And I always enjoyed that. I missed Al's cartridge corner when he wasn't there. That was a disappointment. I come to the meeting. I don't get to all of them, but I come to the meeting. Al's not there. Damn, Al's not there. I'm not going to learn something. You know, what a person does in life. It's so incredible how it touches people, and everything that his son had said. A man of exacting standards. I mean, come and look at his urn. He was born on February 12th. He passed away on February 12th. I mean, that's exacting, just like mathematics. I mean, it's incredible. He will be sorely missed through the Canadian Historical Arms Society. I know I miss him. I know the other guys here representing Chaz miss him also. And we can only hope that we have members that take up the interest that Al has. We have a gentleman here that builds precision rifles, that works the math. And I think that's wonderful, because there is a comfort when you're dealing with mathematics. We have to deal as a group of people with the everyday BS that is being fed to us through the news. Your opinion, another person's opinion, it's all relative. But there isn't a lot of relativity in math. So this is one of the things I appreciate about Al. There's the numbers, that's why it works, that's why it doesn't work. And he not only got into the pure numbers, but he got into the history. Now, I'm not certain, but I think Al's Thompson submachine gun, did it have the bleach mechanism in it?
Yep.
Now, isn't that the mechanism that actually when you took it out, actually made it work better.
Yep.
So there was a lesson right there. He had the one that was more complicated, it was supposed to work better, but in fact, when they took that part of the mechanism away, it worked better. It worked better without it. And these are little things that Al would teach all of us. And we're not gonna have that anymore. So even on a perspective, just as a friend, not close to him, obviously, whoever's gonna miss him the most is gonna be family, but just a short little statement to say that the people in the club appreciated what he offered to the club, he gave to the club.
Yep.
And you know, for what it's worth, folks, thanks for your time.
Yeah, whatever. I remember you guys would disappear from south, going in the gopher shoots.
Even top off.
I have a bit of like a funny story about Al. So I'm Bailey and I'm one of his nieces. So back when I was about 16 or so, I had my first boyfriend, okay? And we were at a Christmas dinner, and so Al, he loved his guns, right? So we're sitting there having dinner, very nice, and he turns and he says to me, Bailey, you know, any gun your boyfriend might have, you should tell him I have a bigger one. Well, I did warn my boyfriend.
So I remember walking down the stairs, just seeing all the wall books, and then in the middle, these big workbenches, all the guns. They gave me in the bedrooms upstairs, all the books. His bedroom now.
And we may eat on e-books now.
Well, I think I'd take them.
When we bought our first house. They've been stored all around for you. It's just something like
So this one time.
Some more walkable. Are you gonna try leaving us everything out?
We went this fall, and
And it was very hard. Rain wasn't there. Gloria had gone.
so here are a whole bunch of authors that I knew for Al and Les. We go, this is what you're gonna do, right? To start with. And now it's slowly getting into the homes that this one is still.
Okay. And we sold them. Actually, there wasn't that much. Anyways, I'm sorry, but it seems like everything is, your family's helping you out so
by Saturday, Sunday, you're spending 2 or 3 textbooks writing fucking courses, because like my Tuesday and Thursday night, I'm I know mom has one.
that doesn't count toward, I don't care if it counts or not.
That was always the law.
Yeah. Yeah, just because of whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go get my, perfect day.
Oh, he's pretty good, I guess we got good taste then.
Mine are in a box. I used to hang them on the wall, now I don't even care to look at
Because I have the economics one.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen any of them since.
There used to be a couple of, a number of those, I think, but it's all the
Real organized.
Real organized. Not where the open knife is sitting on the table and falls into his leg. And then Les and I rush home to his place to watch something because Al stabbed himself. All open. So there was even mid-year history, mid-90s, because I think we're going to the model. I'll get to us because I remember he was trying to set up to go to the hospital. But it
seemed like hours and nothing happened. We're sort of like watching spending magic.
So it's bad then. We gotta go.
Before,
it was just a small
37 years ago.
And sharp. Yeah, he's bolted. Yeah, it's also downstairs.
You know, same thing kind of happened with my sister. I just keep thinking, where's this?
And then I worked with him around that time too, right?
And then I stayed in touch with him.
When I was there. You were there.
Stop now? 6, 4?
He's been.
Holy crow, it's not very often I know, and I do that all the time.
It's all we're totally different companies. Is there any part in there? No. And it's like, it's like, I'm like, yeah, it sounds like you still have no partners there. So I knew how to park my boys.
Yes. I'm gonna have to hide it in my purse.
Up in the board, it's not there anymore.
I mean,
And I just.
I'm gonna get Nathan and
Well, that's been a whole day. It's coming to me up here. And I'm like, okay, it was like, I was
always sort of rolled these. And he had a number of
oh, yeah.
issues as well. He had asthma. And so I just always.
I just had this vibe, and I was there.
I see kids going back. Can you fill this application? Like, is this going to be manageable?
I'd be running the place, but I can just take a note if you want me to. Oh, this sounds bad.
I know,
Sorry, what is it? Sorry, all lowercase.
Yeah, we had that when I was there. Yeah, they put a building there, because I drove by it.
Somebody else's property.
That was the first engineer at this
Here, let me just go to the bathroom. Yeah, go tell you what it is.
I just walked in there, just filming, so as soon as I saw Witness photo, it's like, oh, what the fuck is this place?
Oh, wow, they had that. Yeah, a long time ago. He's died. Well, yeah, it's terrible. They're really stupid. Yeah, he left it on the
Take care.
Thor and I are gonna go.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Well, the work that took 8 hours, Jordan girl, they didn't seem to like that.
White mud? Yeah, don't think that I still make them. And I'm still learning I'll email you some. Yeah, here they are. Yes. Well, I mean, but he can put it away. And of course, Jonathon, I mean, such a big part. Anyway, and I was saying, a little bit.
I got all the pictures.
So anyway, and which I mean, I can, if I have a drink, not normal.
Oh, I see.
I gotta have a lot of fun.
I haven't read it.
Oh, are you?
My ears were burning.
Mom told me about chemical at some point in his life. And I looked up that chemical and it can cause Parkinson's.
Oh, I've heard of that, yeah.
So when Mom told me I was getting Parkinson's, I was like, that's a problem. Yeah, that's what I thought. That was my first thought.
I mean, it went, it sort of went with everything else.
Oh, true enough.
You know,
So many
I mean, I
hazardous
don't
chemicals.
think it's I mean, just.
Sorry? Yeah. Frozen up.
And it even though
At the right time.
it was happening, yes, and they phoned me.
About 1.5. Remind you, that's really typical retirement because having a chance to do it.
Yeah, well,
So I sit back and just sort of thought, and so I don't, I just hope,
It was getting to be too hard to do my own job. And it was getting to be about telling all the time.
well, I mean, that's just, my problem. I was gonna stay working till 65, but then my back started.
yeah, I know exactly what that is.
So, sort of like, okay.
I'm so having a
maybe
good
not
time.
65, maybe
Yeah.
35.
Yes.
Probably at the range.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a heart attack.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad you guys
Maybe this
did.
isn't the job.
Of course. Yes, we're excited. But you never know, sometimes with the weather. Okay, take care. Guys.
Say bye to everyone.
Hi, Karen.
Before. Yeah.
Oh, no, I had the bag for a long time. I keep it in my purse.
That's
I
exactly the same thing.
just threw all the pictures and stuff in here.
Well, it's hard to drink.
I like the back. It is. I can throw everything in there. So I guys, where's the next? Oh, good.
Because I get awkward. This is how I go. I don't know if they even buy it.
He really doesn't. And he's like, yeah, okay, yeah. So hard,
Hang on. My sister is the exact same way. It takes us like 30 seconds to hang up the phone.
Still the two. One page, all. And I will still, I cut down some. And up until last we would cut carrots, so the all things up. And so are you doing it pretty much now? But fortunately, the market still is. And especially Oh, sorry. Hi, Bailey.
Okay,
I knew that.
we're gonna have to, but I just wanted to say my grandma sends her condolences and where she's made.
What's that?
My grandma sends her condolences and she wishes you
Well, I'm so glad you came. I'm still here. Great up? Is that
Yeah.
what he is?
Yeah, great.
It was.
Yeah. It was nice to see you.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm still. Enough on there.
I try and keep in touch. I'm really terrible.
Oh, I am too. I ask Carol how good I am in keeping in touch.
We've done wonderfully together.
Yeah.
We've known her for 40 years and
I'm probably about the same. I can't.
have lost touch and lost, you know, and we see each other.
Yeah, right.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. That's right. Errol.
Well, it's nice that you still have dinner. Okay. Take care. I'm not very nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Across the country.
No, this time you go to.
Well, I won't.
Well, I don't have a choice. I don't have a husband to look at. John.
Borrow your pen for a second.
Oh, you're not, oh.
He's well earned.
Ah.
I was going through his drawer and I pulled out a pen. Trump Hotel. Where was it? Yeah, and then I pulled out another one from place in Hawaii. No, remember those pens I had?
Yeah, the one we got that whole pile.
Yeah, they were from all over. None of them were.
That's okay, you did try.
Okay, that's one.
Actually, no.
I thought I recognized that.
I know. I will miss it too.
How is it going? Oh, it's thinning out.
It's too cold for tag.
I don't know if you guys,
Yeah, and then he said, and I said, actually, no, it's just
give it some cream, so it's
it looked even more obvious. And
Yeah.
he said, so Amy is a singer. And you know, I didn't know her name, so I said, well, this is my first husband, yeah, this is my second. And she said, where does she play? I said, what's wrong with the singers? And I went, you don't want me to get started.
Don't get me on that.
Don't get me on that subject.
Didn't you want your email?
Actually, do you email?
They're gonna teach me.
No, she's like me with email. Stick to the.
I'm actually gonna have, I have an email address.
Changed the Wi-Fi. I had to have it different. email site. And so I
won't use Telus anymore. They tried to stiff me on someone else's late fees for their cell phone, for my cell phone years ago, and should have been a $45 bill. This was almost 10 years ago. Why is it over for almost $360? What's this about? I'm not paying that.
Well, actually,
first got
I have a friend that now.
I was on fire, so I called her, got the customers, and I put the phone down. I got one. Pick it up, it's still connected. And I actually argued with other, I told them what, and they said, well, you know, you use that or not, it's still on the bill. I have see you later.
well, I'm pretty sure. Well, I can do the same for you. To all of us. That's exactly how Bruce is. I actually, when I was geriatrics about, oh yeah, that's one time.
So that's the only reason why I'm so now since then, dump them again. The alternative is you gotta get the house completely.
At that point,
It's scary to have to.
See, luckily for me at the time, it was just the cell phone, so ditching Telus and going somewhere else was free.
except
Yeah, because then we got internet, Wi-Fi, 5G.
I love Emilia, and she really wants to write, so it ends up with like, are you still there? Because I sent letters.
I only need 2 modems.
So my roommate, he pays for the, he pays for the home internet, so I don't have to worry about that too much. He's got that separate from the cell phone. We don't have TV. Our alarm system is through a different. I'm not sure which one. But that's all we really have is we have our internet through He has his phone through Rogers, and I got my phone through Fido.
Yeah, so what I did
Fido's been pretty decent over the years, not outstanding, but they haven't tried to stiff me on anything, so. If they ever tried to stiff me, they're A+.
Well, I used to work for.
So we've got a few
big company for a while. But in the last 4 years, they've been
few years.
Yeah.
Okay, they were suffering, right? The trucking company, I was doing in-town P&D at the time, and they said, okay, well, things are slowing down, we've got to take on more contracts. And sometimes they'll take on a contract, it's like, delivering jelly beans to West Edmonton Mall. They have to be delivered to one box. And so maybe it takes an hour and a half to do one.
Yeah.
Bit of a pain, but
But then they said, okay, we're gonna say yes to Amazon. We took everything from 5.
Wasn't he?
5 to 500 feet.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was our range for what we were doing.
And then Angie.
Yes, sir. Which means you can't do it's gotta be done on the 5. Okay, I can do one. Okay? Yeah, okay. Easier driving. So now I'm driving a 5-ton residential. COVID starts and I'm walking up. If you don't mind, it's getting out. 5 kids all racing around trying to figure out what Santa Claus was.
Yeah.
My group was down here. And it got to the point where I was going, oh, okay. wife's health was very compromised, so I didn't want to try anything home, so I was getting a little more and more uncomfortable with the way things were.
Yeah.
And after a while, since I became released, I didn't think about it, and so we got to the point where I decided to say, that shocked me more than I was planning to work.
Oh, I think that's,
So,
yeah, I think
I
we've
know
got
I
it.
quit, I left my job middle of last year. I was working for a company called Motion Industries, but they're